Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. Ajnanatimirandasya jnananjanashalakayah chakshura unmilitam ena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We have seen it practically. He continued, even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. The chanting should be heard, however, from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord. And he continued reading on to the end. No other means, therefore, of spiritual realization is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Alan again came rushing out of the studio. It was fine, he said. He explained that they had recorded a little echo uh, into the speech to make it special for the listener. Now he pushed back his glasses with his finger. We have got about 10 minutes left on the side with the speech. Would you like to chant again, or is it too late, Swamiji? Prabhupada smiled. No, it was not too late. He would chant the prayers to his spiritual master. While his disciples lounged around the studio, watching the spiritual master and the technical activity of the engineers behind the glass, Prabhupada began singing. Again the harmonious drone began, then the tambura and drum, but with a much smaller rhythm group than before. He sang through without any retakes, and then ended the song and the evening with a fortissimo drumming as the hand-pumped organ notes faded. Again Alan came out and thanked the Swami for being so patient and such a good studio musician. Prabhupada was still sitting. Now we are tired, he admitted. Suddenly, over the studio sound came a playback. Where did I lose him? Yeah. Oh, suddenly over the studio sound system came a playback of the Hare Krishna chanting complete with the echo. When Prabhupada heard the successful recording of his chanting, he became happy and stood and began dancing, swaying back and forth, dipping slightly from the waist, his arms upraised in the style of Lord Chaitanya, dancing in the ecstasy. The scheduled performance was over, but now Swamiji was making the best performance of the evening from his spontaneous feelings. As he danced, his half-asleep disciples became startled and also rose to their feet and joined him, dancing in the same style. And in the recording booth behind the glass, the engineers also raised their hands and began dancing and chanting. Now you have made your best record, Swamiji, told Mr. Kalman as he left the studio for the freezing Manhattan evening. Swamiji got into the front seat of the Volkswagen bus while the Hare Krishna chanters climbed into the back with their instruments, and Rupanuga drove them back home, back to the Lower East Side. The next morning, Prabhupada did not get up. He was exhausted. Kirtanananda, who was personally serving him, became alarmed when the Swami said something about his heart skipping and about not being able to move. For the first time, it became apparent that he was overexerting himself. Kirtananda thought back through the fall and summer when the Swami had led them all on hours long kirtana in the park or on late evening ventures. They had come to take it for granted. But now Kirtanananda saw that there was cause to be worried for Swamiji's health. Swamiji had no appetite for lunch, although by afternoon he regained his appetite and usual activity. That same day, a letter arrived from Mukunda in San Francisco. Not long after their wedding, Mukunda and Janaki had left for the West Coast. Mukunda had told Swamiji that he wanted to go on to India to study Indian music, but after a few weeks in southern Oregon, he had ended up in San Francisco. Now he had a better idea. He wanted to rent a place and invite Swamiji to come and start his Hare Krishna movement in the Haight Ashbury district just as he was going on the Lower East Side. He said that the prospects there for Krishna consciousness were very good. On hearing this, Prabhupada began unfolding his expansive plans. They should open temples not only in San Francisco, but one by one all over the world, even in Russia and China, and the print the Bhagavad Gita in different languages. And he would translate all the volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam into English and take a party of devotees back to India. The devotees who heard him were amazed. Kirtanananda, who had seen the alarming symptoms of Prabhupada's ill health, began to forget what he had thought earlier that morning. If Krishna desired, Kirtananda thought Swamiji could do anything. When Prabhupada came down to hold his morning class on November 19, he carried a large red book inside of the usual brown one. But no one noticed the difference. He began, as always, softly singing prayers to his spiritual master and accompanying himself with a faint rhythm on his bongo. The neighbors were still asleep. The weather was cold, but the steam radiators kept the storefront warm. There would be no more outdoor chanting now. In Manhattan, the city opens wide in the summer and shuts tight in the winter, which for the evening classes meant no more noisy children outside the door. And although the morning classes had always been quiet even in the summer, now with winter approaching, the group became a tighter, more committed core of sincere students coming together to hear Swamiji speak. It was now 4 months since he had begun ISKCON at 26 Second Avenue. He had held three separate initiations and initiated 19 devotees. Most of them had become serious, although few remained casual visitors. Now, in these morning classes, Swamiji wanted to instruct them more about how to become devotees. He led the chanting of Hare Krishna for 20 minutes, cautioning them to respond softly so that the neighbors would not pour water through the ceiling again. Although they hadn't done it lately, Prabhupada always tried to cooperate with the tenants, but occasionally someone would start a petition which never amounted to much against the devotees. Sometimes Prabhupada would help the landlord, Mr. Chetty, by taking out other tenants' garbage or just giving him a hand. Mr. Chetty was a husky, bellied Polish refugee who lived alone in an apartment on the first floor. Mr. Chetty respected the Swami for his age and scholarship, and Swamiji was also amiable with him. Whenever Mr. Chetty came to the apartment, he would never take his shoes off, and Prabhupada would always say, "That's all right, that's all right." And one time, when the plumbing did not work in Prabhupada's apartment, Prabhupada went downstairs and took a shower in Mr. Chetty's apartment. But Swamiji also considered Mr. Chetty a classic example of a foolish materialist because although he had spent his life savings to buy this building, he still had to work so hard. Swamiji said he was a fool for having spent his savings to buy such a run-down building because the building was in such poor condition. He had to work like an ass to keep it up. This is how the materialists work, Swamiji would say. Mr. Chetty, although respectful to the Swami, did not like the devotees. Prabhupada told his disciples, "Treat him as if he were your father." So that so that's what they did. Anytime they would have to deal with Mr. Chetty, they would approach him saying, "We are your sons." Those disciples who lived at the storefront had risen by 6:30, bathed and assembled downstairs by 7, while those who lived outside were arriving separately, taking off their coats and piling them on the shelf of the display window. Although women always attend the evening meetings, Jadurani was usually the only girl who came in the morning. After breakfast, she would begin painting upstairs and in the Swami's front room. She used beginner's techniques of dividing the canvas into vertical and horizontal grid lines and transposing bit by bit the corresponding sections of a photograph onto the canvas. The process was painstaking and sometimes her painting was out of proportion. But Jadurani was sincere, and that pleased Prabhupada. She had completed several paintings of four-armed Vishnu, a new painting of Radha Krishna, and a painting of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. When the painting of Lord Chaitanya was finished, Swamiji had it hung in the temple. Now he announced there should be no more nonsense here. Lord Chaitanya is present. So we'll stop here for today's reading. As we see that Prabhupada and his disciples complete the studio recording. Um, even though I think even I have heard that, and that is what it makes so special when I hear it on the YouTube. That's the voice and the kind of echo. The way he explains the meaning of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is very heart touching and overwhelming. It also pulls all of us towards the devotion. I would wish like everyone should get that sound vibrations of the studio recording, which really has an impact. And also we see that how especially Prabhupada dances, which makes one really feel for his all the things he has done for the humanity. And we see that how Prabhupada has started having an heart his health conditions being ailing. Krishnananda, when he becomes worried about it, yet again he thinks that since he is also being blessed by Krishna, Krishna will take care of him. And on the other side, we see that slowly the Krishna consciousness starts moving towards the west, where Mukunda brings this idea to Srila Prabhupada, and that is where it's not where Prabhupada mentions that it should not be only limited over there; they should be doing all over the world. So we stop here for today's reading, but we should appreciate the kind of an pain and the determination Prabhupada has put is really no matching, and we should be very grateful and thankful, and we should be blessed for being his devotees. We should take a thread seriously, the path shown by Prabhupada.